Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. Just here is my former carrot patch. It needs clearing, prepping and planting. In today's video, that's exactly what we're going to do. Now if we take a look at this garden bed, there's a lot of weeds going on. We've got carrots that have already gone to seed. I have collected a lot of this seed already, so I don't really need to collect any more. I do have some parsnip seed that I haven't saved as yet, so I'll be grabbing some of that. But basically what we need to do today is get out all these seeding weed plants, get the timber out of here, which I used to cover my carrot bed when I started some seeds off over there. And we'll assess the soil and see if we need to add any compost to it. First up, I'm going to collect some seeds. I don't want to bump these plants because the seeds are going to spread everywhere, so I'm going to get this out of the way first up. Now this parsnip plant was one that actually was affected quite badly with powdery mildew, but I did leave half the plant that didn't seem to have it as badly. These seeds are fine, but there's some others on this plant that are affected, so I'm definitely not going to take those. I'll just take the clean looking seeds and save those. Okay, I definitely think we've got enough now, so we can get rid of the rest of these plants, and I'm just going to throw them in the compost. Just collecting a new pile of organic material for my next compost build. Now to move all these carrot plants on, I did leave a lot going to seed and I've collected a big bag of seeds, so much that it meets my needs. I can share it with family and friends and even maybe sell some of it. So all of the rest of this carrot can just go to the compost. Now I am collecting material to build a hot compost because if you're putting all this seed in it, you really got to make sure that it's heat treated so the seeds won't germinate when you spread compost out down the track. And now we can go to town on getting all these weeds out. Now things like this paspalum weed, I definitely like to pull out the whole root, just so that it doesn't sort of make home here and stay forever. Other weeds I'll just sort of chop off and leave the roots in the ground, because the roots are good for the soil. If you pull the roots right out of the soil, of course it keeps disturbing the soil. And we want to do everything we can to leave this soil undisturbed. A bit hard when you're pulling carrots out of it, but it's going to turn into a non-carrot bed today. Now we need to deal with this sorrel plant. Sorrel is a tap-rooted plant. In my garden I've got a lot of volunteers, and if you leave them they turn out to be quite a massive plant. One that you have to actually then watch when it goes to seed to spread more seeds around. So if there's a sorrel plant in a place that I don't really want it, I do try and dig out the roots, even though that's going to disturb the soil. I find in the long term that is the best option. Oh. The main root snapped off, so that plant will probably shoot again, but I'll deal with it next time. You can see the root's way down in there, so I'm not going to keep digging to get that out. And when the plant does regrow, I'll just keep chopping it down. If you don't let any of the green parts of the plant sort of see the sun, it can't get energy and it will eventually die off. Now to get these boards out of here. Now these boards I trialled when I was trying to germinate my carrot seeds. Usually I just put some sort of mesh over the top of them and water them through that. But I thought maybe if I put some boards down, that would keep the moisture in and keep them well hydrated without me having to worry about them too much. But I worried about them too little and actually forgot them, and the first lot I put in just died off, withering away with no sunlight under these boards. So I've gone back to the method where I just sort of put some fabric or some mesh over the top. It's obvious when it's sort of dried out, and then I water that. And the carrot seeds germinate really well like that. Now that all the clearing is done, we can get onto the prep work. Now just checking out the soil, it does seem to have in some areas some organic material on it and signs of soil life. In other areas, it does appear to be lacking. But although maybe with a deeper dive, it's not as bad as it first looked. So for that reason, I'm going to grab out my soil sampler and go a bit deeper in those two areas and just see what's happening. And if you haven't seen my soil video in which I compare soils in different areas of the garden, definitely check that one out, and I'll be leaving a link for that. It really surprised me as to which garden bed proved to be the best soil. I'll take a sample from here. And that colour actually looks really nice. It's quite dark. And not bad structure. Now in our second area. So that's our second sample. There's a little worm struggling. I'm sorry about that little dude. But they're both quite moist, which is pleasing. We haven't had rain for some time and it hasn't been watered in this area because there was no plants to worry about. This is a slightly less dark colour than our original sample. So I'd say this one has a bit more organic material into it, but this is still quite a nice colour. So I'm quite pleased with the result of that. But I think we can still be adding a bit more compost to the top of this garden. I'm quite pleased with that result because my worst garden bed is right next to this garden bed. And that's my strawberries and asparagus, which has quite poor soil really. This mushroom compost is something I buy in bulk from my local garden supply place. I find it just helps bring the gardens along quickly. Making homemade compost does take a lot of time and effort and materials. Having this pile of compost means I can be very liberal with it in the gardens. I do add my homemade compost when I can, as it does add different nutrients and organisms to the garden bed as well. The soil in this garden bed is starting to look okay, but with the addition of more compost, it will continue to build it. The organic material feeds the soil life, and it also holds on to lots of moisture, which benefits both your plants and that soil as well. Now to the fun part. I'm going to be adding in some Asian greens, and this is just a mix that I'll be planting. I've also got some of my seedlings. So I've got some kale here, some cauliflower, and some broccoli seedlings. Some of the other plants didn't quite come up. Now these are quite covered, look at that, in the cabbage moth eggs. So what I am going to do, because it is a challenge at this time of year, is spray them with BT, which is a bacteria that actually affects the little green caterpillars. So I'm going to spray them and then put a cover over them like I did with my cabbage plants the other day. But if I plant them and just leave them, they're just going to be eaten up by all the little caterpillars that are going to hatch from the eggs. Now, if I just try to physically get all these eggs off, what I'm going to end up doing is just damaging these little plants because there's just so many on there. take long before those little moths come in and find your plants. I've got all those plants in the ground now, and I'm just going to add some seeds around these little plants. Actually, these ones are a red perilla that I've thrown in there. I don't think I've successfully grown those before, but I'll throw them in. And there's a variety of mustard type plants in there, and I think that's coriander. So I'll just scatter those around as well. All I need to do now is give these plants a little bit of a water, and then I'll be coming back tonight to give them a spray to make sure that the green caterpillars don't devour them. As you can see, the butterfly moths are just rampant around at the moment, so it's hard to get these little plants growing without some extra help. Once I've sprayed them, I'll just cover them with some mesh so that the butterflies can't get to them again. I hope you've enjoyed joining me today for the clearing, prepping and planting of this garden bed. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.